Commander Vox Tarragon clutched the datapad with his 4 trembling hands, the report displayed on it making his scales shift to a pale blue. Around him, the War Council of the Galactic Confederation sat in stunned silence. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed a planet that looked deceptively peaceful, swirling blue oceans, verdant continents, and wispy white clouds. Planet designation TRG 895. Local name Earth. "So you're telling me," Admiral Zix Perlo finally spoke, her voice dripping with disbelief, "that of the 5,000 elite troops we sent, only one survived?" "Just one?" Vox nodded grimly. "Corporal Nix Vorpal, currently in Medical Bay 7, undergoing psychological evaluation." "Well, that's just fantastic." General Krell Jasperson threw his upper appendages in the air. "We lost almost our entire 7th battle group to a bunch of primitive bipeds who haven't even figured out faster than light travel. Someone please explain how this isn't the biggest military disaster in the last 300 cycles." Scientist Supreme Ella Brightstar cleared her throat. "If I may, the intelligence reports classified Earth as a Class 12 Deathworld for a reason. We underestimated them." Underestimated? Krell's scales flashed an angry red. "We outgunned them by centuries of technological advancement. Our battle cruisers can turn continents to glass. Our soldiers wear armor that can withstand direct plasma strikes. And yet," Vox said quietly, "here we are." The room fell silent again. "I want to speak to this survivor," Admiral Perlo declared. Now the medical bay smelled of antiseptic and fear. Corporal Nix Vorpal sat on the edge of an examination table, his once proud posture now bent and broken. His scales, normally a vibrant purple, had faded to a dull gray. One of his 4 arms was completely missing, the medical synth skin covering the wound still fresh and pink. His eyes darted nervously around the room, as if expecting an attack from the shadows. "Corporal Vorpal," Vox said gently, approaching with Admiral Perlo at his side. "These are difficult circumstances, but we need your account of what happened on Earth." Nix's laugh was hollow. "Difficult circumstances? Is that what we're calling total annihilation these days? How diplomatic of you, Commander." Admiral Perlo stepped forward. "Soldier, you will show proper respect." "With all due respect, Admiral," Nix interrupted, his voice suddenly hard. "You weren't there. You didn't see what I saw. You didn't watch your battle brothers and sisters get torn apart by those things." "The humans, you mean," Vox clarified. "If you can call them that." Nix shuddered. "They look almost like us in basic shape. Bipedal. 2 arms instead of 4. No scales, just this weird soft outer covering that tears easily. But that's where the similarities end." Nix's eyes took on a faraway look. "We thought we were so clever with our invasion plan. Land at multiple points around their planet. Establish beachheads. Standard conquest protocol. What went wrong?" Admiral Perlo asked. "Everything," Nix whispered. "Everything went wrong. The dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like metallic rain. Inside deployment vessel TZ-89, Corporal Nix Vorpal checked his plasma rifle for the 3rd time. Around him, 49 other soldiers of the Galactic Confederation did the same. Their mission was simple: secure the landing zone, establish a forward operating base, and prepare for the main invasion force. 2 minutes to touchdown, the ship's AI announced. Atmospheric conditions normal. No signs of defensive countermeasures. Squad leader Dax Pentra stood at the front of the hold, his combat armor gleaming. "Remember your training. These primitives have projectile weapons and basic explosives. Nothing our armor can't handle. Standard formation upon landing. Secure a perimeter of 500 meters. Should be easy." Private Kella Brightstone said next to Nix, "Like taking candy from a larval stage being." "Don't get cocky," Nix replied. "Intelligence says these humans are unpredictable." The dropship shuddered as it decelerated for landing. The bay doors hissed open, revealing a grassy field bathed in the light of Earth's single sun. In the distance, primitive dwellings dotted the landscape. "Move out," Dax ordered, and 50 Confederation soldiers poured from the ship in perfect formation, weapons at the ready. The first hour went exactly as planned. They secured the immediate area without resistance. Automated defense drones established a perimeter while engineering units began constructing the base. Nix was beginning to think this might be the easiest deployment of his career. That's when the first scout team went missing. Team 2, report. Dax's voice crackled over the comm. Team 2, acknowledge. Nothing but static. Corporal Vorpal, take your unit and investigate Team 2's last known coordinates. Nix assembled his 10-soldier unit and moved out. The coordinates led them to a densely wooded area about 2 kilometers from the landing zone. As they approached, their sensors picked up no signs of life, neither their fellow soldiers nor any native resistance. Spread out. Standard search pattern. Nix ordered. Weapons hot. They found the first body just inside the tree line. Private Shorn Quicksilver lay face down, his armor shattered from behind. It looked as if something had punched straight through the reinforced duraplast, something that should have been impossible with Earth's level of technology. What in the 7 moons could do this? Private Tula whispered beside him. Before Nix could answer, a high-velocity projectile struck Tula in the head, shattering her helmet and the skull inside. She dropped without a sound. Contact, Nix shouted, diving for cover. Multiple hostiles. Take defensive positions. But there was nowhere to hide. The projectiles came from all directions, each one finding its mark with terrifying accuracy. One by one, Nix watched his unit fall. Through the chaos, he caught glimpses of their attackers, humans moving with unnatural speed through the trees, carrying what looked like primitive chemical propellant weapons. But these weren't the crude implements their intelligence had described. These weapons fired projectiles that somehow penetrated their advanced armor as if it were paper. Base, this is Vorpal, he shouted into his comm. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Request immediate evac. A projectile struck his left secondary arm, tearing it clean off at the shoulder. Nix screamed in agony, the sound echoing through the forest. Another shot grazed his helmet, cracking the visor. Through the damaged display, he saw a human approach, a female. By their biological standards, she moved with a predator's grace, her face set in a calm, determined expression that chilled Nix to his core. You should have stayed in space, she said in perfect galactic standard. Nix's mind reeled. How did this primitive know their language? The human raised her weapon, aiming directly at his head. Any last words, invader? We are the Galactic Confederation, Nix stammered. Resistance is futile. Our armada is being dismantled as we speak. The human interrupted, a small smile playing on her lips. You're not the first to try conquering Earth, and you won't be the last to fail. In that moment, Nix's comm erupted with panicked voices from across the planet. Reports of massive casualties, calls for retreat, descriptions of impossible human capabilities. Then the screaming began. She let me go, Nix said, his voice barely audible in the sterile medical bay. She looked me in the eyes and said, go back to your leaders. Tell them what happened here. Tell them Earth is not for the taking. Admiral Perlow's mouth hung open. That's impossible. Our intelligence indicated they were just entering their atomic age. They shouldn't have had weapons capable of penetrating our armor, let alone knowledge of our language. Intelligence was wrong, Nix replied flatly. They were waiting for us. They knew we were coming. Somehow they were prepared. Vox consulted his datapad. The other landing zones report similar experiences. Overwhelming and immediate resistance. Advanced weaponry far beyond what we believed they possessed. And most disturbing of all, knowledge of our tactics, our technology, even our biology. It gets worse, Nix continued. As I fled to the emergency escape pod, I intercepted communications from other units. The humans weren't just defending their territory, they were systematically capturing our technology. Weapons, vehicles, communication devices, even taking prisoners for what I can only assume is interrogation. Admiral Perlow's scales shifted to a worried yellow. If they reverse engineer our technology, they won't need to, Nix interrupted. They already have technology that rivals or exceeds our own. They were just hiding it. But why? Vox wondered aloud. Why pretend to be a primitive species? Nix laughed again, that same hollow sound. Isn't it obvious, Commander? They're the perfect trap. A lush, resource-rich world that appears defenseless. They draw in would-be conquerors. wait for us to commit our forces, then spring the trap. And now they have our ships, our weapons, and who knows how many of our soldiers. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. We need to report this to the High Council immediately, Admiral Perlo said, her voice shaking slightly. The threat assessment for Sol system needs to be upgraded. Earth isn't a death world, it's a predator world. Vox nodded gravely. And its predators have just acquired interstellar capabilities. As if on cue, the medical bay's systems flickered. Then the lights went out completely, plunging them into darkness for several seconds before emergency power kicked in. A voice came over the station's comm system, a human voice. Attention Galactic Confederation Station Epsilon. This is Captain Alexis Mercer of Earth Defense Force. Your recent unprovoked attack on our planet constitutes an act of war. We have disabled your primary power systems as a demonstration of our capabilities. Consider this a warning. Any further aggression toward Earth will be met with overwhelming force. We are transmitting coordinates for diplomatic contact should you wish to pursue more civilized relations. Choose wisely. The message ended, leaving the three aliens staring at each other in stunned silence. They followed me, Nix whispered, terror creeping into his voice. Somehow they followed me back. Outside the viewport against the backdrop of stars, a vessel of unfamiliar design decloaked. It was sleek, predatory, and unmistakably of human origin, yet incorporating elements of Confederation technology. It hung in space like a silent threat, watching, waiting. The galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place. The emergency session of the High Council was called within hours. Representatives from all 37 species of the Galactic Confederation gathered in the massive circular chamber, their agitation palpable. The normally orderly proceedings had dissolved into chaos as footage from the Earth invasion played on the central holographic display, showing Confederation troops being systematically dismantled by what they had believed was a primitive species. Supreme Chancellor Oren Vex pounded his ceremonial staff against the floor, the booming sound eventually bringing silence to the chamber. Order. We will have order. His 6 eyes swept across the assembled representatives. This is a crisis unprecedented in our history. For the first time, a pre-FTL civilization has not only repelled our forces but has followed them back to Confederation space with technology that appears to match or exceed our own. Scientist Supreme Ella Brightstar stepped forward, her luminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. Chancellor, preliminary analysis of the human vessel currently holding position near Station Epsilon shows signs of both Confederation technology and something else. Something we've never encountered before. Stolen technology, growled Representative Yorax from the Canid Alliance. They scavenged our drop ships. No, Ella countered. The integration is too seamless, too advanced. This isn't scavenged technology. This is a harmonious blend of multiple technological approaches. The humans didn't just steal our tech, they understood it immediately and improved upon it. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the chamber. That's impossible, said Representative Plex of the Silicon Consciousness. Even with our most advanced AI systems, it would take months if not years to reverse engineer unfamiliar alien technology. And yet, Admiral Perlo said as she entered the chamber with Commander Vox and Corporal Nix in tow, here we are. The council fell silent as Nix was brought to the center of the room. His missing arm and dull gray scales drew gasps from several representatives who had never seen a Draconian in such poor condition. Corporal Nix Vorpal, Chancellor Vex announced, the sole survivor of our expedition to Earth. The High Council has convened to hear your first-hand account. Nix stood straighter, military training temporarily overcoming his trauma. Honored representatives, what I witnessed on Earth defies explanation. The humans knew we were coming. They spoke our language. They had weapons specifically designed to penetrate our armor. And most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly who we are and how we fight. Could they be telepathic? Suggested Representative Lumina of the Photonic Collective. No, Nix replied. It was worse than that. It was as if they had encountered us before. Meanwhile, aboard Station Epsilon, Lieutenant Commander Faye Winterbloom of Earth's newly revealed Stellar Defense Corps stood face to face with a delegation of stunned Confederation officials. Her sleek black uniform bore no insignia, except for a small blue Earth emblem. Behind her stood 2 human soldiers, their posture relaxed yet alert. Let me be perfectly clear, Faye said, her tone conversational yet edged with steel. Earth has maintained a policy of apparent technological regression for the past 300 years. Your Confederation is not the first advanced civilization to discover us, nor are you the first to attempt conquest. Station Administrator Thax Brighthorn's antenna twitched nervously. But our historical records show no previous contact with Earth or humans. Faye smiled without warmth. Of course they don't. The others didn't survive to make records. The Confederation officials exchanged alarmed glances. You see, Faye continued, casually examining a Confederation datapad she'd picked up. Earth learned long ago that appearing weak and primitive is the best defense in a predatory galaxy. We've been watching your Confederation expand for decades, cataloging your technology, learning your languages, studying your tactics. We knew eventually you'd turn your attention to our resource-rich Deathworld. But why maintain the charade? Asked Science Officer Petra Glow. If you possess such advanced technology, why not join the galactic community? Faye set down the datapad and fixed Petra with a penetrating stare. History, Officer Glow. Human history is filled with technologically advanced civilizations subjugating those they deemed primitive. We decided long ago not to take that chance on a galactic scale. She turned to gaze out the viewport at her ship. The Vigilant is just one of hundreds of vessels in Earth's defense fleet. We could have destroyed your entire invasion force, but we chose restraint. We allowed one survivor to return a message and a warning. And now? Administrator Brighthorn asked quietly. Now, Faye replied, we negotiate. Back at the High Council chamber, debate raged about how to respond to the human presence. We should mobilize the entire fleet, insisted General Krell Jasperson, his scales flashing between red and orange. Strike before they can consolidate their position, and risk further catastrophe, countered Representative Lyra of the Aquatic Domains. We lost 5,000 elite troops in a single day. What makes you think throwing more ships and soldiers at them would yield different results? Chancellor Vex raised his hands for silence. We have just received a transmission from the human vessel. They are requesting to send a representative to address this council. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. Allow a potential enemy into the heart of our government. General Krell was practically spitting with rage. This is obviously a ploy to gather intelligence. They already have all the intelligence they need, Nix said quietly, but with enough force that the chamber fell silent again. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so already. They let me live for a reason. They want to talk. Chancellor Vex studied the traumatized soldier for a long moment, then nodded. Prepare the diplomatic reception chamber. We will hear what the humans have to say. Captain Jonas Harper stepped off the shuttle and onto Confederation soil with the confident stride of someone who had trained for this moment his entire life. Unlike Lieutenant Commander Winterbloom's unadorned uniform, Harper's dark blue dress uniform displayed a careful selection of medals and insignia, a calculated display of human military tradition, designed to communicate both strength and civilization. The diplomatic reception chamber was grandiose, with soaring ceilings and representatives from all Confederation species arranged in tiered seating. At the center stood a speaker's platform, currently occupied by Chancellor Vex. Captain Harper of Earth, Vex announced formally. You stand before the assembled High Council of the Galactic Confederation. We grant you diplomatic courtesy despite the unorthodox nature of our first contact. Harper's laugh echoed through the chamber. Unorthodox. That's a polite way of describing your unprovoked invasion of my home world, Chancellor. He ascended to the platform with measured steps. But I'm not here to trade accusations. I'm here to establish understanding. From within his uniform, Harper removed a small device and placed it on the platform. A holographic display sprang to life, showing Earth from orbit. Earth, third planet of the Sol system. Class 12 Deathworld, according to your classification system. The image zoomed in, showing cities, oceans, forests, home to approximately 10 billion humans and the seat of a defensive coalition that spans 27 star systems. The hologram expanded to show a three-dimensional star map with highlighted systems surrounding Sol. Gasps and exclamations of disbelief erupted throughout the chamber. Impossible, shouted Representative Jorax. Our surveys show no signs of advanced civilization in those sectors. Because we didn't want you to see any, Harper replied simply. Active camouflage technology has been standard procedure for human colonies for generations. We call it the Veil Protocol, hiding in plain sight. Chancellor Vex leaned forward, his expression grave. Why reveal yourselves now, Captain Harper? If secrecy has served you so well, why change strategy? Harper's face hardened. Because your invasion crossed a line. Previous encounters with alien civilizations were isolated incidents, single ships or small expeditions that we could deal with quietly. But deploying an army? He shook his head. That required a more definitive response. The hologram shifted again, now showing dozens of sleek ships similar to the one orbiting Station Epsilon. The Earth Defense Fleet is currently mobilizing, not for war, not yet, but as a precautionary measure. We prefer peace, Chancellor, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves with all necessary force. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. What are your terms, Captain? Chancellor Vex finally asked. Recognition of Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory, a non-aggression pact, and reparations for the unprovoked attack on our homeworld. Harper's voice was level, his gaze steady. In exchange, we are prepared to share certain technologies and establish limited trade relations. And if we refuse, General Krell challenged. Harper's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then we return to our previous arrangement with one key difference. You now know we exist, and we know you cannot be trusted. I leave the strategic implications to your imagination, General. 3 days of intense negotiation followed. The Confederation representatives cycled between disbelief, indignation, and finally, grudging respect. Captain Harper remained resolute throughout, never raising his voice but never yielding on key points. On the 4th day, in a private meeting with Chancellor Vex and Admiral Perlo, Harper revealed the final piece of the puzzle. You're still wondering how we knew so much about you, Harper said, sipping the Confederation equivalent of tea. How we spoke your language, understood your tactics, could defeat your armor. The question has been raised, Vex acknowledged. Harper set down his cup. 57 years ago, a Confederation scientific vessel entered the Sol system. Unlike your recent military expedition, it came in peace, conducting surveys. We detected it, of course, but decided to make contact, quietly. Admiral Perlo's scales shifted to blue with shock. There's no record of such contact in our databases. No, there wouldn't be, Harper agreed, because we made sure no one returned to report it. The implication hung in the air. You killed them? Vex asked, aghast. No, Chancellor. We offered them a choice: stay with us and help us understand the galaxy beyond our borders, or be held indefinitely. Most chose to stay. Some even integrated into our society completely. Defectors, Admiral Perlo whispered. Immigrants, Harper corrected. They provided insight into Confederation technology, society, and military doctrine. They helped us prepare for the day when your expansion would inevitably lead to our doorstep. And where are these immigrants now? Chancellor Vex asked. Harper smiled. Some became valued citizens, others serve as advisors, a few even married humans, and started families. The shock on the aliens' faces was almost comical. Cross-species reproduction is, Admiral Perlo began, possible with sufficient medical intervention. Harper finished for her. Those children and their descendants have provided unique insights into both human and Confederation biology. Why are you telling us this? Vex demanded. Because you need to understand that we've been preparing for this moment for generations, Harper replied. We knew exactly who you were when you arrived, and more importantly, we know exactly who you are now. The treaty signing ceremony was broadcast throughout Confederation space. The Treaty of Sol, as it came to be known, formally recognized Earth and its colonies as a sovereign power and established a framework for peaceful coexistence. As Chancellor Vex and Captain Harper exchanged the ceremonial pens, Corporal Nix watched from the back of the chamber. His scales had begun to regain some of their purple hue, though he knew he would never be the same soldier he once was. A human approached him, the same female who had spared his life on Earth. She wore a formal uniform now, but her predator's grace remained unmistakable. Major Scarlet Raven, she introduced herself. I wasn't sure you'd remember me, Corporal Vorpal. Hard to forget the person who took your arm and spared your life in the same hour, Nix replied dryly. Scarlet nodded. I've been assigned as military liaison to the Confederation. We'll be seeing a lot of each other. Why did you let me live? The question had burned in Nix's mind since his escape. You could have killed me like the others. Someone had to tell your story, she said simply. Someone had to make them understand that Earth isn't what it appears to be. A wolf in sheep's clothing, Nix murmured, using a human idiom he'd learned during debriefing. Scarlet smiled. More like a sleeping dragon that your Confederation unwisely decided to poke. Across the chamber, Captain Harper concluded his address. Today marks not the beginning of human involvement in galactic affairs, but merely the day we step out of the shadows. Earth has always been here, watching, waiting, preparing. We prefer friendship to conflict, cooperation to conquest. But make no mistake, we will never again be underestimated. As the assembled representatives applauded politely, Scarlet leaned closer to Nix. He's being diplomatic. What he means is the galaxy has changed forever, and the Confederation better get used to it. Nix looked at the human, this member of a species that had utterly destroyed his military unit and then dictated terms to the most powerful political entity in known space. What happens now? He asked. Scarlet's eyes gleamed with something between amusement and warning. Now the real game begins. You thought you were conquering a primitive world, but instead, you've awakened a sleeping giant. Welcome to the new Galactic Order, Corporal Vorpal. Try to keep up. In the viewport behind the ceremony, Earth ships moved into formation alongside Confederation vessels, a visual representation of the new alliance. But Nix couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't truly a partnership of equals. The humans had revealed only what they wanted the Confederation to see, had shared only what they chose to share. And somewhere out there, beyond the Veil Protocol, human colonies were watching, waiting, their true capabilities still hidden from view. They had played the long game for generations, appearing weak when they were strong, appearing isolated when they had already spread among the stars. Nix shuddered, despite himself. The humans had a saying he'd recently learned: keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Looking at Major Scarlet Raven's confident smile, he wondered which one the Confederation was to them, friend or enemy, and he wondered if they would ever truly know the difference before it was too late.